There are two places in America that embody the lifestyles of the rich and famous above all others. One's obviously Manhattan. The other's Beverly Hills. The deals are bigger, the shopping swankier, the glitz, the glamour, the scandal, the risk. Everything is magnified. So it stands to reason that the deals in both places are as high stakes as gets.
To paraphrase the inimitable Kevin Kisner, developing in these markets ain't no hobby.
Welcome back to the Promote Podcast, your insider guide to the money and mania of the CRE markets. I'm Hitan Simtani.
And I'm Will Krasny.
Today we're going Tupac and Biggie, CRE edition. We dive into a deal on each coast that brings together all the things that we think make CRE the greatest show on earth. Rapacious lenders, billion-dollar dreams, broken capital stacks.
And of course, Russian developers who bear an uncanny resemblance to Ivan Drago.
He dies. He dies.
I totally see it. In New York, we're talking the saga of 172 Madison, how Yitzchak Tessler lost his trophy condo project. That was my pick. In Beverly Hills, we look at One Beverly Hills, the multi-billion-dollar mega project that's a who's who of finance, real estate, hospitality, and so much more. That was a Will Krasny pick. We want to shout out our sponsor for this episode, Bullpen. They're a recruitment shop dedicated to CRE. You'll hear more on them in a bit.
We gonna start with some California love or Brooklyn's finest?
You want to flip a coin on it?
Let's do it.
Tails it is, baby. Let's go New York. All right. There's a fascinating nexus between the diamond world and the real estate world that we've talked about before. Go check out our episode on Gary Barnett where we gush about this nexus in depth. But there are probably in the Venn diagram of diamonds and development, there's also a few less celebrated characters that are equally larger than life, both literally and figuratively. I'm referring here, obviously, to Yitzchak Tessler.
Like all great characters, the backstory here is amazing. He started off as on the floor of like the diamond exchange and ends up with, at one point, the most expensive listing in Manhattan. Aspirational pricing be damned.
Yeah, it's a pretty incredible story. And I think it illustrates how things can go so wrong in ground up development. The rewards can be outsized, but things can go really, really off the rails.
It's also a great example of the old wisdom that time kills all deals, because it's very much true.
Yeah, it really went through a bunch of cycles.
Let's give a little bit of background, because in New York, there are these guys who show up, often with great suits, often with great hair. I'm referring, of course, to Joseph Beninati, and try to develop a crazy condo project. And you think, yeah, that was going to go badly the whole time. This guy was not that. He had a bunch of successful projects under his belt before going to 172 Madison.
He had a track record, yeah. So Tessler is a very, very interesting character. He started his career as a diamond polisher in Israel.
It's like starting off in real estate as, the coffee boy.
It kind of is. And at some point he graduates to become a real player and he is traveling into war-torn Angola to trade diamonds. And there's an amazing anecdote. He's talking about lying in his hotel room at night and just listening to gunfire because it was civil war, all kinds of coups going on. And this guy, the guy, rotund, really, really character.
Rubenesque.
Beautiful. Rubenesque.
And he's sitting there and he's like, in those countries, life is worth less than the ash in this ashtray. And he gestures over it.
It's really like a mix of Lord of War and Blood Diamond. He was involved, I think, as an LP in 66 Leonard, which was a real project and very successful in the early 2000s. He had a real office and he'd done several pretty large, relatively condo deals. So this is a guy who has developed. He's got sharp elbows.
I think it is probably useful to talk about how these two professions are kind of the same thing, if you think about it.
Especially condo development, where you have something that throws off zero cash.
Correct.
And it is completely reliant on what someone's going to pay for it. And you have to buy this raw thing and you fine tune it and you develop it.
It's kind of like a development site, right? Your rough gemstone's kind of like a development site.
Yeah.
You have to make an early decision about which path to take it. You're using leverage, you're using brokers, and then you have to bring it to market and hope that someone's going to pay a ridiculous price for it. That's the game.
And if you're working on it and you hit it a little bit too hard, it can just crack.
Exactly. That's a little bit of context on Tessler. Let's start in 2007, the go-go days pre-Tessler at the site on 33rd and Madison. There is a Russian woman who comes in, Natalia Pirogova.
Oh man, a riddle wrapped in an enigma, if there ever was one.
So Pirogova comes in, she buys a site at 33rd and Madison for 33 million bucks. And the idea is to create a 100-key boutique hotel and a 69-unit condo.
Nice.
Grow up well. And she's targeting a pricing of 2,000 a foot here, which is pretty ambitious for this area.
What's funny is today that basically gets you a, second floor walk-up unit in Clinton Hill. At that point, though, this was staggering pricing per foot.
Yeah.
For those who aren't necessarily as familiar with New York, you might think Madison Avenue. That's a very big, fancy place. Surely there must be tons of wonderful condo buildings there. They're not. It's office. It was called Mad Men because they had an office there. Like, nobody lived there.
And so Pirogova gets a $29 million loan from UBS for the acquisition and gets started. Things go south pretty soon after.
The recession hits and development is stalled, as development is wont to do.
Yeah.
And our good friends at UBS,
They filed to foreclose on the property after Pirogova defaults on the loan. And you'll love this. They go and sell the note to a distressed debt investor called Garrison. It's run by a guy called Joseph Tanzi, and it's an offshoot of Fortress.
which I love because a garrison is a fortress of sorts.
This is a really dire situation for Pirogova, and she's looking to save the site. Somehow she's connected through this guy called Kashi of Platinum Properties Residential Brokerage. She's connected to CIM.
They took advantage of my old pal Harry Macklow. The CIM, they have been involved in many of the most high-profile New York developments. These guys are literally paratroopers.
432 Park Avenue, 737 Park, 100 Barclay, big time projects.
They are very big structures alpha. They've done tremendously well on 432 Park, unlike the aforementioned Harry Macklow. They are also very sharp-elbowed. And also, at some point, I think they realized, why do we need this riddle wrapped in an enigma?
Exactly. So what Pirogova was hoping for is to JV with CIM and basically get rid of her troubles with her NPL. However, she later alleged that CIM used that inside track with her where she submitted details of the plans and kind of gave them the secret sauce. And they just basically pushed her out. And the way they did that was they bought the NPL, the non-performing loan, from Garrison, which puts them in pole position to take the site out. With or without you, they chose to go without her.
Let me get this straight. The developer who is in foreclosure is like, I have a super secret plan that is going to solve this. And this multi-billion-dollar private equity firm that's developed way bigger projects, they're only going to be successful if they have my super secret knowledge that has led to this car crash.
That is precisely right. They have a history of doing this. They're happy to take over projects because they actually know how to develop.
Mess with the bull, you get the horns.
She's kind of running out of options, and then comes in our boy Tessler.
Riding in on his high horse with 2 cigarettes in each hand.
He agrees to form a JV with Pirogova, and he agrees to pay off CIM, make them go away. At this point, CIM says it's owed 55 million bucks, so there's already a nice return in there for them.
Default interest is a hell of a thing.
So Tessler becomes the front man of this project. He's now calling the shots. He is pegging this to be a $300 million project.
So he takes over, starts doing his magic, shaping the diamond. Things are off to a good start. And I think you have some firsthand knowledge of how good the start was.
We'll get to that in a second. But before that, we should talk about the construction loan.
Oh, yeah.
So in 2014, Tessler lands 140 million odd in financing. What is notable here is that the LTC, which is the loan to cost, is 85%.
We used to be a country.
We used to be a country. One little nugget on this, the debt broker on that transaction was a guy called Adi Chug. Adi, obviously now, is a big lender in his own right. He runs Tyco Capital, and he got that sweet Elliott money to bankroll that thing.
And he is doing every project left and right in Manhattan, Miami.
I feel like he's building half of Miami. It's pretty nuts. So in 2016, the aforementioned party, I go in wide-eyed reporter, and I go up to this beautiful building in the sky. The sunset is hitting just right. The booze is flowing. There's women. There's music. There's Tessler, this rotund man sitting with a couple of women, smoking a cigar, living the good life. And you're like, this feels right. This project just is going to be something. I also spotted Ryan Serhant there. That's going to become relevant in a little while.
Pre-white hair.
This is a party in that go-go Manhattan way. We're going to break records. We're going to have the best time ever. We're going to create a new neighborhood, et cetera, et cetera. And at the time, I think sales were going well. Let's talk a little bit about the condo sales velocity and how important it is to keep everything going.
It's everything. So that construction loan, those things are priced wide because it's the riskiest piece of debt you're going to have
Yep.
in the project. And so every day that goes by, you are burning interest. Again, there's no cash flow from this thing. So it's not like you've got a debt service coverage ratio. You pay it off by selling units.
You can't even rent the porta potties to the Port Authority or anything on the side.
You need to build it fast and you need to sell it fast. And generally speaking, too, condo projects aren't huge multiples. They're about velocity. You want to be in and out and make a 1.8 whatever and call it a day. And all of that profit is generally in the last 10%, 15% of your units. They're generally your best units, your most expensive, and you've paid off your construction
Your
loan.
penthouses, your top floor units, that's kind of where you make your nut.
Exactly. So you want to get everything else through there, build velocity.
And then crescendo in that penthouse.
Precisely. And so they seem to be on their way. They had a great start. Reportedly, about a third of the building was under contract within 4 months.
In 2017, we learned that they got a condo inventory loan. And the size of this condo inventory loan is maybe your first sign that things are a little bit here. $164 million. dollars. And the lenders on this are Deutsche Bank and TPG.
Yeah. So a condo inventory loan is essentially a slightly cheaper form of financing that you can use to take out your construction loan, finish the project, and then, sell your units. It's rare to have a condo inventory loan bigger than your construction loan.
Exactly.
Because it means you haven't paid down anything. Or that your costs have ballooned out of control and you've got to, you need the money to finish units, which seems to be the case here.
It's probably a little bit of both here. Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, little column A, little column B.
What's funny too is that you now have a lot of people on the record who both were involved in the building and weren't on the sales side, basically saying that this thing was a tire fire on the sales front.
So Compass was handling sales at the time. In 2017, they said 60% of the units are in contract, and the remaining listings were asking about 2,200 a foot. However, there was a lot of, let's put it charitably, mismanagement of a process that needs to be.
New development sales, everything's orchestrated because there's a bunch of different phases and you have to get them all right to have a successful project. You have to have market penetration. People have to know what the project is. They have to know sort of what the lifestyle it is that you're selling at this price point. And all of that comes from the brokers and the marketing staff. And those guys are machines. They are calling everybody. They are really setting the stage for what people are buying into. Think of the guys we've talked about previously on the show, like Michael Schvo. Like that guy had 9 phones. He was everywhere all the time.
It's a 24/7 job. I almost think of it like, I know it's a little bit nuts to say this, but I almost think of it almost like a iBanking process. You're an investment banker underwriting a company. It's all hands on deck, 24/7 for that really, really intense period. And that's how I feel about new development sales. The best of them run that shit as a real process. The sales, the media generated, the right kind of buyers, the right leaks to the press, creating more excitement, the showings, all of it has to happen. Boom, boom, boom.
And you have to do it correctly. Like the showings themselves, like which units do you go to? What's the spiel? It has to be incredibly well choreographed. And I think it's a great point saying it's like taking a company public. That's what you're doing here with a building. You're taking a building public.
And on a roadshow, one thing you should not do is mischaracterize the neighborhood.
Oof, yeah. There's a game people play where you can pick,
Na, na,
especially in New
na,
York,
na, 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 na.
go to Street Easy and lobby to be in a different neighborhood. If you're in Chinatown, but you're like a street over, you can be like, we're Tribeca.
Zeckendorf's 520 Park Avenue is not really on Park Avenue.
Yeah.
They did some jujitsu there.
So here, like this building is in Midtown South, which is not very desirable residential area. They should have tried to get it to Nomad.
Yeah.
Which is a very desirable area to live.
Sure, but they didn't. They just called it Midtown South in the listing.
Like, hey, it's Midtown South.
Minor detail, but these kind of things do matter at that level. It's very, very high stakes sales, and every little thing has to be right.
If you're searching by neighborhood and you want to live in Nomad, it doesn't show up. Like, that's a problem.
One of the issues here is that instead of using kind of your go-to new development brokers, there's a little bit of nepotism in the mix too.
He hired his son to lead sales.
Effie Tessler, yeah.
And he's done a bunch of those over the course of time. So this is not anything out of the ordinary. But for a project like this, it's a different ball of wax.
So in 2018, sales really haven't hit the marks that they were hoping for. And Tessler has to go back to Deutsche Bank and scores a $95 million refinancing. By now, Compass has dumped him. You kind of get a sense that this is not going as well as you'd want. And another thing that we should talk about is like Velocity matters so much here because buyer tastes change over time, market conditions change over time. Like you're going through a couple of mini cycles in this one sellout.
That's a great point. You also face competition that you could be early, but if you take forever, then you're late. And you're not just competing with product here, you're competing with all of the Billionaires Row product. You're competing with downtown becoming a hot area. And so a lot of boutique condos down there, which took buyers who might have otherwise looked at this. Longer you're in the market, obviously, the more time works against you from a financial returns perspective, but it also works against you just in terms of, as you said, tastes. You just give yourself more time for things to go wrong.
You just don't want to be seen as a stale building or an unwanted building, right?
Exactly.
Everyone wants to get into the building that you can't get into.
100%.
Same principle. So in 2019, the developer tries a Hail Mary and it is called Le Penthouse. What is Le Penthouse?
It was white box space, which essentially means you pay an absurd amount of money for the privilege of then paying more money to finish it out according to your taste, which is maybe it works for office, but for $98 million condos, less so. It looks like a crime scene that like where Dexter's about to murder people.
This is why you're the goat, dude. I'm going to read you the listing. If this is how you love to live, this is your call to action.
That makes absolutely no sense.
Clearly, buyers didn't go for it because by the next year, Tesla was forced to slash prices not only on Le Penthouse, but on a bunch of other units. And then things started getting really bad.
In 2022, the lender, DB, still on their $95 million refinance, declares them in default. And then Tesla takes 3 years to try to get a refinance done and isn't able to do so.
So in 2024, we have our NPL snipers come in. A company called ARC PE. It's led by a couple of guys called John Olson and David Gordon. They snap up the note in January 2024. And then they're going to move to file foreclosure.
It's also illustrative to look at the sort of sliding scale down the lender ladder over the course of this project. We started off with UBS, an enormous money center bank. Then we go over to TPG and Deutsche Bank. Then we go to ARC PE, who, God love them, never heard of them before.
Exactly. So in the summer of 2024, they're about to kick off a foreclosure sale. And minutes before the sale happens, Tessler plays the B card, files for bankruptcy on the project.
He's a broken hero in a last chance power drive.
ARC PE claims that this filing was done in bad faith and they intend to fight it vigorously. Tessler's people, however, insist that these units, they're too good to head down the fire sale route. We need time to figure this stuff out. Le Penthouse becomes Le Petit Penthouses. They chop it into 5 units. That's the plan.
They've got 12 units left out of the original 72. So they're like 80 odd % sold. But again, like that's the profit that we're still waiting on.
When he files for bankruptcy, we kind of get a rare glimpse. It's really hard to figure out in New York and in development in general who owns what until you file for Chapter 11, because then you've got to lay all the cards out on the table. And so Tessler owns just 10% of this project. Pirogova, the Russian developer we talked about in the beginning, owns 40%. And there's a couple of other entities. One of them is called Samagor, and the principal of that had pled guilty in some healthcare fraud unrelated.
I'm like surprised that Steve Ballmer didn't have Kawhi Leonard in his cap stack.
In August, Tessler files for bankruptcy again. This is pretty amazing. This time, the entity that actually owns the unsold units filed for bankruptcy. The previous bankruptcy we talked about, which was just a couple months prior, was by an entity that owned a stake in this entity.
Incredible. It's BK squared. Phenomenal.
It's Russian dolls all the way down. So Tessler says about his now lender, he says, a ruthless company, all they do is buy loans and foreclose. And he says that the outstanding debt on the property is just about $33 million. But ARC PE says that it's nearly double that by now.
Again, default interest is a hell of a thing.
And Olson, the ARC PE guy, says that Tessler, you know what? You've had 3 or 4 years to sell everything. You haven't done shit. In response, what does Tessler say? He says they can go fuck themselves. This winter, Tessler is in a pretty tight state of desperation. He says in court, I can't even pay my credit card, and he asks a judge to unfreeze his accounts.
Not being able to pay your credit card bills, like that's, kind of par for the course in real estate. For a
It
lot of
does
folks.
happen. I'm thinking of Kent Swig. I'm also thinking of my brother Will Krasny. It's happened to all of us at some point.
Hey, what are you going to do?
But this frozen bank account situation stems from a separate dispute on the same project. Jack Tersey, do you remember that name?
23 Wall, the real heads know.
Exactly. So at some point, Jack Tersey was going to buy a slice of the Deutsche Bank debt. Tessler, however, convinced him not to do this and said, hey, you know what? That deposit you made to Deutsche Bank, I'm going to cover you on that. I'm going to refund you that money, which was 3 million odd.
That is psychotic.
Pressure to repay Tersey would kind of mess up the bankruptcy reorganization, is what Tessler argues in court. And then he also says that he is the project's special sauce. If he is removed from the project, the entire thing's going to suffer. To get into my office, it takes a key, he says. To get into my head, it takes 2 years.
What does that even mean?
The bankruptcy judge was similarly confused. He said that when Tessler was being grilled about the project, he demonstrated that his grasp of specifics was quite limited. I love the put downs in the cloak. They're just at another level. In the spring, Tessler and ARC-PE kind of meet somewhere in the middle. He agrees to turn over some of the resi condos and 2 commercial units. And Ryan Serhant, remember him? He's going to be selling them for ARC-PE.
Expansion always and always.
And always. And Tessler, though, he isn't done. He's trying to figure out this. He has one last trick up his sleeve.
He says he's got a co-developer who will guarantee. Hard to understand exactly what the mechanism here was going to be, but they were basically going to guarantee the loan, and that would buy him time to finish the penthouses. And then they were going to have a sort of money back. It was basically like a liquidation preference and a VC deal.
This did not take, unsurprisingly.
Shockingly, the last-ditch insane plan didn't work for guys who had 10 years to finish this thing.
And so Tessler goes and tells ARC-PE, I'm out of options. I couldn't get this done. And in August, a federal judge affirms the bankruptcy reorg. Tessler loses all the remaining units. ARC-PE is going to sell them. Apparently, there was a party for this project that Tessler was not invited to. That's pretty dark.
Speaking of dark, we talk a lot about successful developers and folks who knock it out of the park, reimagine the skyline, all these things. This is a real situation. If you're playing this high wire act of NYC development, like sometimes you fall. And, Tessler said something that really stuck with me in court. He said, I've built many buildings in Manhattan. It's not the first one. It's unfortunately the last one because of this situation.
You feel for the guy, man.
You do.
Not so lekker.
Not so much.
So we talk a lot on the show about how CRE is such a specific, weird world unto itself. So when you're talent hunting in the space, it makes sense to partner with a recruiter who lives and breathes it. That's where Bullpen comes in. They're a talent shop solely dedicated to the commercial real estate industry. They can hook you up at all levels, from analyst to C-suite. And they can fill both fractional and full-time positions. Check them out at bullpenre.com to get started. That's bullpenre.com. And please tell our friends there that the Promote sent you.
Regular listeners will know that a couple things really get our juices flowing. Creative capital stacks, when developers score money for their big bets in unorthodox ways, and when we have great characters to introduce to the Promote cinematic universe. And man, does this story check all those boxes very, very hard.
It has everything. I mean, when we started reading on the backstory of this, it's amazing how many names came up, not only from real estate, but from like celebrity, Hollywood, finance, everything. It's just a beautiful narrative.
This site has an incredible backstory, which was detailed in incredible style by Behind the Deals.
Shout out to Behind the Deal. Listen, if by any chance you're listening to this podcast or someone sent it to you and you want to come on and be with us and pod with us, we would be honored. We're big fans.
This originally was the Robinson May department store
Mm-hmm.
in its phenomenal location right off of Santa Monica and Wilshire.
Yeah, prime Beverly Hills.
Yeah, next to the Beverly Hilton, which we will talk about in a minute. It was owned by Equitable Life Insurance. They wanted to sell it, and it was bought by 2 enterprising young bucks.
So New Pacific Realty, it's run by a bloke called David Margulis, who used to be Apollo's guy out west, by the way. and his partner, Arnold Rosenstein.
Which is just the most Beverly Hills name of all time.
Completely. So they pay what, $33.5 million for this dirt.
Yeah, that's really cheap. And it was, in a sense, because it was a big piece of land in
Yeah.
prime Beverly Hills, it was also a sub-2 cap
Well-
because Robinson May had a 30-plus year lease for essentially no money.
Now at Robinson's May, it's the biggest Hoover sale of the season.
So you're buying it on a hope and a prayer, basically. That's what you're doing.
Kinda. I mean, we talked about billionaire developer Ben Ashkenazi.
Massive air quotes.
Yeah, what he did on Barney's, where he did basically the same thing. He bought the ground lease before it reset at a very, very low cap rate and then ended up getting foreclosed on. That's an example of, it's basically like when keeping it real goes wrong.
Uh-huh.
And this is an example of when keeping it real goes extremely right. So Robinson May, their parent company, ended up getting bought by Federated Stores, which is like an 80s LBO Target. Like, so you
Perfect.
read about it. And they took it over in a $17 billion transaction, which, like, again, like, imagine a retail deal for $17 billion today. It's kind of unfathomable. But they had a competing department store chain to Robinson May, and they had 2 stores within walking distance of the Robinson May here.
So one had to go.
They ended up terminating the lease.
Whew.
And so our good friends, Arnold and David Margulis, own this site now, maybe the best development site in Beverly Hills.
I don't even think you need to say maybe, because the price that they got in 2007 makes it definitively the best site, at least the best deal of all time for them. So they sell this in 2007 to the Brothers Candy for $500 million.
Oof.
It's 60 million plus an acre.
Just
It's an astonishing return.
incredible.
33.5 million in 2004, sold for 500 million in 2007.
With just a couple of renderings from Richard Meyer. That's all it took.
So the lads who are the Brothers Candy are behind, a lot of listeners will know them as the guys behind One Hyde Park, which is basically London's Billionaires Row, alpha development over there. It's famously the dark building where it's all absentee buyers and whatnot. Will, this seems like one of your obsessions. You probably know a lot about the Brothers Candy.
I love these guys. They were like, yeah, we started off, we renovated like one house, like a flat, sorry, and we lived in it and like did it ourselves, and then sold it, and then like 3 years later we were billionaires. And I can't remember whether it's Nick or Christian owns
Property moguls, yeah.
owns like the most expensive house in Monaco, like, which is saying something. But yeah, they were the Tiffany brand of New York real estate, as Lori Lustig Bauer said when they purchased the site.
Candy in the UK is what Tiffany is to jewelry here, says Lori Lustig Bauer. Therefore, they believe they will achieve record prices for these condos.
I mean,
amazing.
Just fantastic.
That didn't turn out that way. So they take on 300 million plus in debt from Banco en Bursa, which is a Mexican bank controlled by our boy Carlos Slim,
one of the richest men in the world, and yet another fantastic character involved in this saga.
They default, and then who comes in?
Dolly and Wanda, which, again, like the real psychos will know that name.
100%. So Dolly and Wanda is one of those emblematic, they're called in China gray rhinos, these companies that, fueled by corporate debt back in China, grew super fast, bought up all these trophy assets. This is in the same category as HNA, Anbang Insurance, etc. And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, the Chinese are a bit different from the Japanese in the 80s. The difference was the Japanese guys didn't go to prison, and a lot of the like people from Anbang, etc., like you don't even know where they are anymore.
Oh, Paulie, won't see him no more.
History doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. So Dolly and Wanda paid about $400 million. I want to say in like 2014-ish.
Isn't it amazing that we haven't even talked about the deal yet? We're just talking about the dirt. It's just so fascinating. It's amazing.
Yeah. So they bought it, and then they turn around and sell it in 2018 to Kane International and Beny Alagem. And so this is where we want to get into go a little bit down the street.
Let's do it.
So Beny Alagem, what a character. Just like, again, only in America, only in Los Angeles, only in Beverly Hills. So he was a co-founder of one of the early semiconductor companies in the 70s, then started one of the largest computer manufacturers in the 80s. It was called Packard Bell, not to be confused with Hewlett-Packard. Resigns in a dispute with one of his co-founders, but has made, gargantuan amount of money. When you may have a gargantuan amount of money and you're a young, enterprising man about town and you want to build a profile, what do?
You buy the swankiest hotel you can in Beverly Hills.
Absolutely. So in 2003, Beny bought the Beverly Hilton from Merv Griffin, who another character. Like, just Google Merv Griffin. Like, the Wikipedia page is like 15 pages long. Like,
I mean, deservedly, this guy's a freaking legend. And so was the hotel. This hotel is so deeply enmeshed in LA culture and entertainment culture at large.
It's where they have the Golden Globes every year.
Yep.
It's in like James Ellroy novels about LA. It's like a
Uh-huh.
major scene. So he pays 130 for it. It was a little tired. He spends 90 million renovating it. It's really like one of the iconic West Coast hotels. And what he got with it too, though, is he got some land
Yep.
next to it, which is again prime. And what he ends up doing is he gets in with the Guggenheim boys, the Goog.
Let's talk a little bit about them. So Todd Boehly is the former president of Guggenheim. He actually created the credit division there. And then he's since gone on to run Eldridge, which is his giant, I don't know, AUM gobbling company, let's just call it.
I think it's a box of sorts. I will say, like, Todd invests in everything all over the place. Chelsea Football Club, Hollywood Reporter, Dick Clark Productions, you name it. One quick story is a friend of mine was on a call about some transaction with Todd Boehly like years and years ago. And apparently they're talking about this deal and everyone's like, well, what about the growth? What about the strategic positioning? Whatever. And apparently Boehly just gets on this conference call and goes like, I don't give a fuck about owning this. I only care about making money.
I love the single-mindedness. I kind of feel like it's a common thread amongst these like moguls, right? So Bowley's there, but he's not the guy who runs point on these real estate bets. The guy who runs point on these real estate bets is a lad called Jonathan Goldstein.
He runs Kane International, which is affiliated with Guggenheim. He was a very prominent real estate barrister.
That's what they call
the
them.
Solicitor. Okay, not the barrister. Okay, they wear the wigs.
So he became kind of the go-to CRE lawyer, as if, you know, Jonathan Mechanic and Jeff Lenoble had a love child in England. That would be Jonathan Goldstein. So he was the go-to guy. He was putting together, structuring all these big-time CRE deals. Then he went in-house and worked for a property mogul called Gerald Ronson. So he goes from being a solicitor to a principal, or right-hand man to a principal. Then he does a brief stint at Guggenheim, and then he forms Kane International to kind of do his own deals. And they've become big, man. They're big players now.
They're doing huge projects in Boston. This one, obviously.
Did you see that they bought the Trump Soho from our boy CIM?
Yeah, I did. So Beny Alagem, he's got the Beverly Hilton. It's been a success. He's got the parcel next door. Gets in with the Goog, and they build the Waldorf Astoria, which has just epic roof. Absolutely epic roof.
There's a spicy lawsuit that I'll throw into the show notes that the Peninsula basically accused them of spying and basically stealing the playbook for guests. It's pretty interesting.
That's very funny. I love it.
Yeah.
So now they decide, after 2 successful projects, they want to triple down, and so they buy this other site on the other side of the Beverly Hilton for $445 million in 2018.
They're dreaming no small dreams here, right?
Yeah.
This is not just a standard
exactly right.
hospitality project. Yeah. They're going to stitch these together into this one hospitality mecca, right? You've got the Waldorf, you've got the Beverly Hilton, and
you've got the Amman. So you basically got your like 4-star, 5-star, and 6-star, or 5, 6, and 7, depending on how you view things. And so OKO, led by Ivan Drago's body double, Vlad Doronin, comes on in.
What a character in of himself. He runs the Amman hospitality empire. He's also a very big player in real estate, like super prime real estate in multiple markets, New York, South Florida, etc.
And so the cap stack here is nuts because they're saying they need over $5 billion.
$5.25 billion. What are we putting a data center in here?
Oh my God, yeah, right. How many gigawatts is this Amman going to have?
And it's a little bit of a modest project for that cap stack. So we're talking 300 luxury condos, 37 condo hotel units, and an Amman. So I'm struggling to see where that money goes and how it's spent.
It's like $10 million a room of condos and hotels. It's nuts.
One of the promotes OG readers, Maddie Godsteiner, saw the cap stack in the promote and was like, just for fun, he had one of his analysts crunch the numbers. He's like, I can't make it work. Like, how are they putting these numbers together? How do you get to $5 billion?
Yeah.
We don't know how they're going to spend it, but how are they going to raise it?
Well, a project like this, it's not like you can walk down the street to your local lender and be like, hello, I would like a $5 billion loan, please. You've got to stitch any public incentives you can get in any public money. Debt fund, bank, non-bank, everybody. Like, everyone's got to come to the party. It's got to be a million different people. You got to form a syndicate.
You think we need one more?
That's really what they did.
You think we need one more? All right, we'll get one more.
They've got Vici, which is the casino player, They're providing them a 300 million slug of mez. I don't know how that happened, but amazing. I love it.
There you go. And then they just got approval from the city council for a special tax district, which is going to let them raise like 550 million in municipal bonds. And I love the press releases and the statements coming out of the city council about this. They said they got concessions from Kane of 140 million of value.
Uh-huh.
Nebulous as to what they are.
Is it just going to be a Thomas Heatherwick sculpture or something more concrete?
Yeah, maybe a Rodin or two. But they say that the money borrowed is going to help fund streets, parks, public infrastructure, but it's all going to be right there.
This is something I think is worth pointing out. Beverly Hills, even though the numbers are massive, is a small town. And it's run like a small town. The mayors kind of all cycle through. If you're in the mix, you kind of know everyone who calls the shots in the city. They have to basically draw blood from every stone possible, right? So they've got this muni bond financing, which is nebulous. And we don't really know the impact of these things until many years later. And sometimes it's too late to really figure out if it was good or bad for the taxpayer. But anyway, they've got that $500 million slice. They've got 300 million in mez from Vici, and then they have a while to figure out the rest of it.
We've laid out a million characters, fascinating folks from all over the place, and we haven't even built it yet. The hardest part is still to come.
I would quibble with you that I feel like the hardest part is just putting the money together. Once you put the money together, you can kind of play around quite a bit.
I tell that to Yitzchak Tessler.
So we have Jonathan Goldstein in the mix. We have Vlad Doronin. We have Todd Boehly. Like massive, massive tycoons.
What a crew. Murderer's Row.
What's up with Beny Alagem?
He was, the face of the project, and he's now sort of seems to have receded to the background a little bit. Still says that Alagem Capital Partners is a crucial player in this development. But, he's seeing this block that he spent the last 20 years on really come to life in this incredible way. And I'd say a great capstone to his career in Beverly Hills is that as part of the project, the road between the residential towers and the LA Country Club will be named Alagem Way.
That's outstanding. It's absolutely outstanding.
Tremendous.
That's it for the Promote podcast this week. We'll be back next Wednesday with more CRE Insider goodness. Write us and let us know which segment you like more, Tupac or Biggie.
Honestly, I'm more of a Dr. Dre guy.
Same here, actually. Yeah.
Please write us a review on Apple or Spotify, a haiku, a limerick. Doesn't matter. Just tell people what you like.
Big thanks again to our sponsor for this episode, Bullpen. Check out their CRE dedicated recruitment offering at bullpenre.com. And brands, we're CRE's water cooler. If you want to be in the mix with shot callers in this business, hit us up at partnerships@thepromote.com. That's partnerships@thepromote.com. Well, if you had a road named after you, where would that be and what's the vibe?
It would be the service road leading from the main clubhouse to the golf pro shop at Lifeward Key Club in the Bahamas.
Amazing. I think I'm more humble. I just want the alley behind the IFC. That's my jam. That would be the Santani muse of sorts.
I love it. That's great.
I'll see you next week, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.